Good afternoon.
Afternoon, everybody.
Friday.
Friday.
It's the weekend.
You.
Doesn't make any difference.
No, that's true. No big plans.
Actually, Paul asked me a very profound question a couple of minutes ago. He came into the room and said, "Why am I so handless?" Would that translate across the pond?
Handless.
Handless.
I am handless.
Which means that he's not very good.
I'm mechanically, electronically, and do-it-yourself subnormal. I got
challenged. I think.
Yes, challenged.
You're
not allowed to do it. HMD
yes,
one cable. I sent away to Amazon to get one for my Apple TV, which I dug out. Looked at it, tried to fit it. Said I've got the wrong one. Contacted Amazon, online, said got a refund, and they said I didn't need to return it, so I just throw it away basically. But I realised that I hadn't taken the wee plastic cap off the end of the USB cable to get it into the thing, and when I did, it worked okay. So there's something in my brain.
It just does not compute.
I know. Yes.
To be fair, I mean, it makes me. When we got married, I had absolutely no expectations that I was marrying someone who could do any DIY jobs around the house. That I knew that was never going to happen. In fact, she did try to put up a shelf when the girls were small above their beds, and it kept falling off the wall and hitting them on the head in the middle of the night. So I had absolutely no expectations. But having said that,
I had it up the wrong way around. Actually,
yes, you did.
Yeah,
you did.
No, but I remember talking about that expectation.
Well, no, I was going to say you had a few expectations.
Yes, of you. That's what I mean. Because I remember after we were married about 3 months, I said to Priscilla, "Are you not going to hoover the walls
or vacuum?
Vacuum the walls?" And because my mother always vacuumed, she vacuumed, hoovered the walls, and I just thought everybody did it. But you said,
well, my reply was, if he ever, felt the need to vacuum walls, to feel absolutely free, and I wouldn't object at all.
That's true. As a segue into what we really wanted to talk about, actually, we were thinking about expectation. The whole cable thing came up, but I was asked not that long ago, what did I think the most important aspects of a pastor's life were in terms of what they did, and we talked about preaching the word and being a person of prayer and all the rest of it. But actually, one of the big ones was managing people's expectation. And I don't just mean of me, but primarily of God.
Yeah.
Because most people get disappointed in God because he didn't do what they expected him to do. And I was reading in Luke 24 today how that the women, after the burial of Jesus, they went on the first day of the week with spices to anoint his body. But of course, their expectation was they would find a dead body, even though he told them he was going to rise from the dead. Then they go back. The women, the angel speaks to them. Do you not remember he told you about this? They go back to the disciples, and Peter runs in. This is Luke's account, and he's puzzled. It says, they forget all about it. Then you go to the two on the road to Emmaus. And Jesus appears to them and said, "Well, why are you looking so sad? What are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, have you not heard? We had hoped and thought that he would be the one who would redeem Israel." And Jesus goes, "Goodness, I told you about this, that the Son of Man had to suffer and die and be crucified and rise again the third day." And so their expectation was something that they just, it inured their hearing to what God really wanted to tell them and what Jesus was saying to them. And actually, that was, I suppose in my life, that was one of the big things. Because you live in this balance of trying to inspire people to grow in their faith, but also to believe God to move in their life. And so there's an expectation there. And when it doesn't happen, actually, God and me got the blame. So it's a funny thing, expectation. I suppose one of the biggest things for me is when people attach the word faith to everything. Well, I'm in faith about that. But actually, sometimes what we say we are in faith about is simply what we hope will happen, and not what God has spoken to us about. We've got to be really careful about it. I've talked about this before, but really important that. But managing expectations, living in this tension of believing it for incredible things, and yet realizing that sometimes things don't turn out the way we thought they would, the way we expect they would.
And I think that, just as it feeds a relation, false expectations can feed wrong things. I mean, we were joking about it, but it can feed wrong things in a relationship. Then it's true in our relationship with God as well. And Jesus, whenever he was talking to his disciples in the upper room, when he's explaining all this to them about how he's going to leave them, but he doesn't put it always in very clear terms, but
it's clear enough.
He said,
Son of Man must suffer and die at the hands of and will rise again the third day. So that's pretty clear.
Well, that's pretty clear. But some of his conversation in the upper room, even the disciples are saying, "Man, what's he talking about? Ask him what he's talking about." But I think it's because they had a certain mindset of how it was all going to play out. And when you do have a certain mindset, it is really hard to hear what somebody is saying to you. And even Jesus said to them, and it struck me, it always has struck me, but it struck me again yesterday. He said to them, I'm telling you these things so that you won't give up, so that you won't fall away. And that's the problem with dashed expectations, isn't it? That so many Christians, they feel as if God hasn't done what they expected him to do, that he's let them down. And they actually ended up, they did walk away. So managing our expectations is a really, really important thing. And I do remember one time having prayed about something and it not working out the way I expected, and I was really heartbroken about it. And I remember having a conversation with the Lord and saying, how I felt it was so unfair. But then the bottom line was, but you're right, God, and I'm wrong, and even that's not fair. That I just was so frustrated that it hadn't worked out the way I expected it to. But I think unless we learn to have a step back and have a bigger picture of that, it really can trip us up. We need a good theology, and we need a good perspective in terms of our trust in God, that even when it doesn't work out the way we expect it to, he's still working out his plans and purposes in our lives. And I suppose when it comes, I love the prophetic, and I know when you often share prophetic words with people, at times what you say isn't what they hear because of maybe they're sitting with a set of expectations. Here's, if they believe that God is speaking to them through the prophetic word, and they're going, oh, and that's how they interpret it.
Well, it's just in that one, Keith Lockhart, my buddy, and I were ministering in France once, and Keith prayed for this couple who weren't married. And we went back a year later, and we came in, and Keith said, "How are you getting on?" He said, "We got married because of your prophetic word." Keith went, "I need to talk to you."
Because he hadn't actually.
Well, that's not the way he reckoned. What is it? Recollections may vary. Someone said recently.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
But it is even in terms of what we hear.
Yeah. God
speaking to us, maybe personally.
And he is.
And he is. But what we hear personally, or through someone else, through a prophetic word. That's why I think it's always good as well to have a conversation with people you love and trust, and say, this is what I think the Lord is saying. This is how I'm interpreting it.
What do you think? Well, we always say anybody can get revelation from God, but sometimes the interpretation, you don't get the whole thing, or you don't get it at all, and somebody else go, "Oh, that's what that means."
You need a bit of wisdom and perspective
you do.
of it.
Anyway, how could that be helped? How could we help the church to do that?
Well, no, we were talking about the prophetic, and I've actually put together a 6-week course on introduction to the prophetic, which I've done with a church in Galway,
Discovery Church,
for 6 weeks, and we had a great time together, and it worked really well on Zoom. So I think we're going to put it on the website and say Yeah.
I'll put it on the website, but you're doing the course.
That if anybody wanted to access that, it's a good introduction.
Yeah, access it as in you would do it for them.
Yes.
Not that you have it recorded.
No, because it doesn't really work. It needs to be live.
Yes, it does.
With the prophetic, I think it needs to be live to work. So anyway, it's going to be
all
available.
right. Prophetic word for your weekend. You're going to have a great weekend. God bless you. Talk to you next week. Bye.